This goes back to what I was just saying, where you're too busy trying to create a living versus living your life.
Yeah.
So we're spending so much time with these goals that we're trying to create a living versus living our lives where we could be married, right? We could be one unit.
Enjoying it.
And then also, I guarantee you, if you guys are really about that life,
and you get together,
and you get married,
you probably gonna get it.
You
quicker.
You will get there double or triple times as fast. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the More Than a Side Hustle podcast, where we help 9-to-5s create more impact, income, and influence outside their jobs. My name is Anthony.
And I'm Janoka.
And we are excited to have you guys. Before we get started, if you guys are new here, we want to thank you guys for being here. If you are a listener, we appreciate it. And before we get started, drop us that 5-star review if you can.
Subscribe to that YouTube channel. We are here every week for the past 2 years, which we actually are one episode away from our 100th podcast. So kudos to us and you guys for tuning in week after week. But thank you once again. Every single Tuesday we're here. Drop us that review. Let people know what we're doing. Sharing, subscribe, do all those good things for us.
Yeah, man. So I want to talk about this. We literally just came back. How you want to even intro this part?
Well, you could say it could be, generally I think people say maybe a trigger warning.
Maybe a trigger warning.
For some people, yeah. So we went to the Dallas State Fair, which is a big deal out here. Every year they have it between September and October. The last time that we actually went was in 2016 when we first got here, and friends and family were down. We have not been back since then, but we now have kids and our friends have kids, and they're like, let's go to the fair. We're like, sure, why not?
The State Fair is exactly what you think the State Fair would be. If you are from New York City like us or any big metropolitan area.
True. We don't have state fairs.
Yeah.
Coney Island.
No, that's not a state fair.
That's a fair, though.
That's a fair. Coney Island is not a state fair, though. So whatever you envision a fair being, this is exactly what that is. So you got barnyard animals, you got the Ferris wheel, you got the rides, you got
funnel
cakes,
fried Oreos,
clowns, or you got all of it. Their food is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
A lot of people go for the food.
Yes.
They fry everything in Texas, like literally everything.
You get fried ice cream. You can get so many different things.
I had my first fried alligator at the State Fair.
Yes, so it's a lot of food. There's a lot of rides. There's thousands of people with their kids, adults. They sell drinks, everything. So it's a good time. You can spend all day there, right? So we didn't get there till really the end of the park, so maybe like 5:30. The goal was 4:30, but after parking, et cetera, et cetera. Then we grabbed something to eat and we walked for a little bit. The kids so there was 4 kids there. 2 of them are about 2.5, and the other one, Alani's a little younger. The other one's about to be 2. So Alani and the other girl couldn't really get on a lot of rides because they had them going by themselves and stuff like that. So we were just kind of hanging out, eating, chatting with the kids, taking pictures and all that good stuff. Finally, we all got back together again and we were like, all right, let's move on. Let's get the funnel cake for you. Let's get the Dippin' Dots for you. Excited to keep going and exploring. And that's when our night took a immediate turn.
Yeah, so we just saw a bunch of people running in one area towards us. So imagine you're seeing hundreds of people running towards you. The first thing you're going to think about, no matter where you're from, is I'm going to start running too. Yes. And I'm going to assume that there is something that I shouldn't be waiting for to find out. Just like in horror movies, you see people running, you don't just stand there and wait.
Yeah.
So we start running. And
kind of move to the side.
Yeah, and we just saw a bunch of people running towards us. We kind of moved to the side to get out the way. Because my first thought is that, all right, I know when you got a bunch of people, we got Alani, we got strollers, we got kids, and if you're not moving out these people's way, they will run you over. You will be trampled. And we kind of got to a safe space to kind of figure out what was happening, and we realized that there were gunshots.
That's what people had said.
They said there were gunshots, and in Texas, everybody has guns, but in an event like this,
well, an event anywhere, I don't want nobody shooting where I'm at.
yeah. So. There was a shooting. We later found out that it actually was a shooting that happened, that took place.
But I was gonna say, in that moment, I think it was a combination of, okay, if they're running, we need to move away too. But at the same time, are people just running because you like he just said, if somebody starts running, you start running too, right? So after everybody stopped, the stampede stopped. Actually, we're like, all right, let's just go home. That was enough for me. Like, it was enough for all of us. We're like, we don't know what it was. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was a mistake. But let's not take any chances. Let's just go home.
Yeah.
So we're like, fine, we'll go home. The state fair is huge, so we didn't even know how to get out of this place because there's certain exits. And we're like, how do we even get out of this? So maybe 3 minutes pass. A stampede happens again. So now I don't know why it felt realer this time for some reason, because it felt like way more people running, and we're literally like dragging the strollers to the side. The baby's like ducking low because you don't know what you're running from, right? And that's what somebody said on the news. The scary part is I don't even know if I'm running in the right direction. I just know that I'm running. And that's what Anthony ended up saying as well when we had a conversation of, after you're hearing people say that they're shooting. You're hearing that, but are they shooting for one person? Are they attacking one person? Is this somebody with an AK, I don't know what, trying to like kill multiple people? We have no idea what this is. You just know that you want to get out of there, especially you're with your kids. And so that's another feeling. That's a whole different feeling on top of you trying to like be safe, but you have your child with you.
Yeah, you're not trying to find out either. I'm not trying to wait around to find out. Right. So our first inclination was, let's find the nearest exit. So we get to the exit. Obviously, we're safe.
Through some back way. It's not even an exit.
Obviously, we're safe. All of our friends and family are safe. And I think one person was injured. But
no, 3 people were injured.
3 people were
not
injured.
Not life, death.
We are not news anchors. This is not us reporting the news.
Right.
This is just us speaking about our personal experience while we were there. And then you start seeing all these videos. You come home and you don't feel safe until you're actually in your home, in the bed. And it was just one of those things where as we're talking about this, thinking about this, it's going to be like the topic of conversation today, is that you don't want to wait until it's too late to kind of, get to your goals, or you don't want to wait until you do this big thing in order to say, I finally am able to do something else. And we went to church as well. And the messages, I literally wrote the message down because I was like, yo, this message is right on time. This is going to be a message on the podcast too. Let me see what was said. And it said, we spend so much time trying to make a living that you don't make a life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, workaholics, that type of vibe.
You spend so much time trying to make a living that you don't make a life, and you don't find a way to actually enjoy your life because you're trying to check off these goals before you can say or do one thing. But yeah, that message hit home in church today. That was one of the gems that I got. But yeah, it was a scary experience, but I'm happy that we're all safe.
Because like you said, it's a fair. It's thousands of people, right? I don't even know how many people can fit in that thing or how many people are there. I'm gonna get something like 20,000 plus. Let me just go with that number. I don't know. It seems like it's that many people that can fit at one time.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And we were, like you said, we just exited. So now we had to walk 40 minutes to get to our car because we exited wherever we could. And now you have to get back. And it's just crowds of people. There's dozens of cop cars, ambulance. And anytime you see like a crowd of people, you get to an intersection, you're like tensing up because I don't want to be around a crowd at this point because I don't know what's happening. Did they catch the person? Did they not? Listen, it's just too chaotic. You don't ever, and I'm trying to think back. I don't know if I've ever been in that type of situation before, and I definitely don't want to be in it again, especially when you have your child or children with you, because there was four kids out there and 9 adults. So yeah, that was the experience, and it was just kind of like having to breathe and say, okay, we're okay, but you just never know. And we have both said to each other that didn't even cross our mind. I know we live in a day and age, and maybe that's naive of us. We live in a day and age that anything can happen, but I wasn't thinking about anybody getting hurt. I mean, when I go to things, I don't just assume I'm going to a place that I need to watch out for somebody to start.
Yeah, we're not the type to be looking for the exits and all of that stuff. But
yeah. So that was that experience.
Yeah, man. But obviously we are here. We are safe. We are okay. We're literally recording this right after the event happened, so you guys can kind of put the timeline together if you kind of watch the news. But we're gonna be talking about this episode.
Switching completely to the right.
No. This episode is actually in alignment with kind of what the thought was in church today when they said not waiting. Like, you spend so much time trying to make a living that you don't have a life. And this episode is actually going to talk about that because we came across a couple, right? And they asked for some advice.
Before they asked for advice, you had brought it to my attention. Do you remember that?
I did.
So this couple, we will tell details, is on Social Proof Podcast, which Anthony listens to a lot. And he was telling me about the conversation, like, oh, like this is what they were saying. And I'm like, okay. Lo and behold, the person actually emailed us after hearing us on Donnie's podcast, our coach, and asking for some advice from us.
Yeah, and this is how you know when you know what you're talking about, right? Because I always know what I'm talking about. Literally said, listen, guys, I literally said, we should watch this episode together, take our feedback, and post it on the podcast.
Right.
And it became an idea that sat there forever. Mm-hmm. And then the person actually emailed us a couple weeks ago. Crazy. It was like, hey, guys, I was literally listening to you guys on this podcast. It would be dope if you gave us some feedback. And this feedback is going to be really around...
what we heard.
What?
Really around what they said.
Yeah, around what they said. So we're going to let y'all listen to it.
Yeah, but let's read the email that came in. Let you listen to it, and then we'll give our feedback. So cool. They just said, hello, love your story and journey into your personal lives, into business. I'm in a relationship, and I stress to my partner about getting on the same page when it comes to business and building our empire. The relationship is fairly new, for almost a year, and he believes we can accomplish both of our single dreams at the same time, which are real estate, podcasting, and writing a book. My question is how, or please advise on examples on getting on the same page to reach the same goal. And then they just tagged the episode that they were on with Donnie and David.
It was like episode 386. So
yes,
we're going to let y'all listen to about a couple minutes of that show.
So you can hear.
So that you can understand where we're coming from. And we're going to let that play. We're going to come right back to you guys. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get it.
What are we waiting for?
Wow. So why don't y'all just get married? In time. What are you waiting for, though?
You don't just rush into anything, including business, and that's how we look at our personal lives. So we just get married when things are not. So foundation, the foundation is not strong enough yet for. The foundation is not strong enough yet for a marriage.
Some stuff you don't like about them right now.
Correct. We're building.
What are 2 or 3 things that need to be in place before you decide to get married?
Real estate.
What does that mean? Like a home together, or
no, separately. He needs to have his own properties. I got to have my own properties.
How many?
4
each.
Multiplex.
So wait, y'all gotta have a multi-family property before marriage is on the table?
For our relationship, yes.
Dang. What if there's none available?
Oh.
There will be some available because that's just how we are. Oh, yeah. But also we both have children, so that has to be another conversation.
Ooh.
So the podcast summit.
No. I think that is quite 4 properties. Meaning, you said 4 apiece or 2 apiece?
Just multi-properties, multiplexes, or it could be he can have a 6-unit, I can have a 12-unit.
Dang. So you gotta have doors before you'll marry this man.
What does that have to do with marriage?
Marriage is a business. Relationships is a business. And I look at leverage as everything. So I can be non-intentional or I can be intentional. And I am divorced and I've been married before. And his vision was a 9-to-5 job, regular. I didn't have to work, but I want abundance of life.
You did not get divorced because y'all didn't have a bunch of property, though.
Yes, we got divorced because he was fine making $80,000 a year. And I said, for me, I want more. As far as business goes.
Well, that's
but y'all
who the
are already
person
both
is. That's not
entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about my first husband.
Yeah, but here y'all are already both entrepreneurs.
Right, but he's not comfortable in where he is, and nor am I.
So why wouldn't it then just be when we have this financially independent, when we can bring this independently to the table?
That's
why
what I'm
is
talking
it
about.
Doors?
We decided that.
So if he makes $1 million next year and has 0 doors, still can't marry him.
Oh, ain't no way. Ain't no way I'm having
Mike,
$1 million.
Mike.
Ain't no way I'm having $1 million and no doors.
Oh, it's a way.
It's a way.
I went to the Property Challenge Live. Right? Plug. But I went to the Property Challenge Live. So what I learned there's no way I'm going to have $1 million and have no doors.
Well, there really is a way.
For sure.
For sure.
Having $1 million and making $1 million, 2 totally different conversations.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There are people who make less than $50,000 annually that has 4 doors, right? From their business. Doors may just be paying for themselves or whatever the case may be. So it's just an odd, kind of prerequisite. So if you make $1 million, if I gave you $1 million, Toya, if I gave you $1 million and you have that money, is that not enough financial, like it's free and clear. Is that not enough financial stability for you to say, without the doors, I'll marry you?
It's not about financial doors, it's about the dream. So if he doesn't want to fulfill his dream before me, then that means he doesn't care about himself. So if you can't care about you and your access, then you don't care about mine either.
That doesn't make sense.
At all.
That doesn't make sense. Yo,
It doesn't make sense to you all, but to us it does.
Does it make sense to anybody else in here?
Okay. I can understand your desire. I'm saying there is a possibility that you don't accomplish that specific dream. Mm-hmm. So if I'd have told my wife, I need to have X amount of property before we get married, we would not be married today. I wouldn't have these children that I have. We wouldn't have grown. And we are under the impression that, first off, y'all don't really know each other like that yet. And what might happen is he starts making this money, building these doors, and realize that you're not building yours and say, yo, I need to find somebody else that got some property.
Faster.
Yes. So initial thoughts.
All right, y'all. So now y'all watched it. Y'all heard it. Mm-hmm. Maybe y'all watched it. Maybe y'all heard it. I don't know. Depending on how you are tuning in, we're going to get into our thoughts on the conversation, and we're going to also provide our feedback and guidance. And hopefully this rings home with some of you guys, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're single or thinking about getting married or whatever. But
yes.
Want to provide. So I'm going to let Janoka kick it off.
So the thing that stood out, I think, to everyone was, well, a few things. When they were asked about if they were dating, they said that they're courting each other. And I don't know if that's an old school term, or I'm like, why not just say you're together? But then they end up saying they're exclusive. So it's like, okay, so they're just dealing with each other. Fine. The biggest thing I think about them saying that they wouldn't get married until they each had multiple properties, which is real estate, if you don't understand that. So they're committed to each other, they're together, like she said, it's been about a year, but they would not move forward with anything else until they each have multiple properties, not just one, but multiple properties. And I think David said it, and everybody kind of have similar reactions, and we had that similar reaction. It's like, what does one have to do with the other, right? Mm-hmm. They explained that for them, it was kind of a commitment, and we're working towards something. And I have this feeling of, well, why not let it just be once we hit this thing, then we can move forward? Why does it have to be so stringent on just the properties? And what is it? Like, there has to be more to the properties, right? Mm-hmm. Is what it felt like. And I feel like she did explain further about her being in a previous relationship, of feeling like her previous relationship, the person kind of got stuck there and not wanting more. So I think maybe they put this 4 thing here to show like you're really committed, because then you really want more if you have 4 properties. I don't know. We haven't had exact conversation, and hopefully we can to them. But it was just kind of like, it reminded me of the things that you hear on social media when, like, if he don't got this, I ain't gonna do this. If she don't got this, I ain't gonna do that. When it comes to a relationship, and it doesn't really work that way generally. Usually, it's from what I've seen, it doesn't work that way. From us, relationships, friends that we have that are in relationships, it doesn't work that way. What else would you say about it as a quick recap before we go deeper into it?
I mean, you literally said the whole thing.
The whole thing.
You went through the whole thing. So let's start with, my initial thoughts was, I love the idea around having goals before you get married to somebody. I love the fact that the couple had their individual goals. I don't know if they set those goals together or if they each had those individual goals and said, here's what we're going to accomplish. I think that's super dope. I think that's actually important, because if you don't know, they're obviously having deep conversations on what they want to do, what they want to say, and how they want the relationship to look over the course of before they get married. And I think a lot of couples are missing that actual conversation to set, who are you? What do you have? Who am I? What do I have? And when we come together, what does this look like?
Yeah, I guess my thing is, why is it just around business?
I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay. Well, that's my question. You said you loved it, and I'm debating that part. I'm
not just this is what the podcast is about. It's about business. So they're talking about business probably. So, but okay. I'm like, when we were engaged to get married and we started talking about finances and stuff like that, a lot of couples aren't even having those conversations. So for them to be at this point where they're not even engaged, they're just quote unquote courting, and they have these conversations. I think that's great. I love the fact that they're sitting down, having these conversations. And they also said that they're committed to each other in that way. So I love that. I'll just start there. I love the part that they do have goals.
Okay. And maybe it is that they just mentioned the goals part because generally that's what the podcast is about that they were on. But I don't know. I guess for me, I'm like, my goals, I don't want it to only revolve around business, which can happen sometimes too. When you're in a relationship or a partnership or something like that, things tend to just focus on that. And then if that doesn't happen, everything else trickles down or everything else is not as important. So for me, yes, we have multiple businesses. So one would be like, it has to be important for you guys. Yes. But it's not the top. So I guess that's my first, not red flag, but just concern about that. Like, why is it the only thing that we're focusing on at the time, right? And then the other thing is, what is it about the 4 versus the 1? Like, me just showing that I'm gonna get a home.
I'll tell you right now why.
Why?
Because on social media, people tell you that before you get married, you need to go out and get an FHA loan. You need to go and get a fourplex so that you could get the low down payment. You live in one unit. You let the other units pay for the building, and then also you roll down to your LLC. And once you got your LLC, you roll down to NBC, and then you get into CNBC, and then you go buy a Komodo Dragon that pays for everything. That's exactly why you hear all of these stories about before you get married, you need to go buy a house on your own. Now, not saying I disagree with that, but I like the fact that they are thinking about buying properties before they get married.
In the future, yeah.
Before they get married. Okay. There are pros to doing it before you get married, so that when you guys get married and you combine your finances, the amount of properties you could get is going to be limited based on your combined finances versus when you could buy a couple, I could buy a couple, right?
Okay.
But the problem is this is a lot of, I guess we are giving social media advice as well.
What makes something social media advice? Because I'm saying it on social media? What the hell?
Well, no, hear me out. Because you'll see there's a bunch of content around you should or need to buy a property before you get married. And you should get a multi-unit that is a FHA loan, low down payment, low cost, and all of that stuff.
Okay.
You get one, I get one, we come together, now we got 8 doors. That's kind of like the thought around
That's
it.
fun. But would that stop you from getting married? That's the difference. I think you can say, like, this is probably best for you guys if you're in the financial space, you're looking to increase your income. But would that stop you from that? Because what if that takes you 5 years to get 4 doors? It may or may not. I don't know. This economy, the interest is really high. There's so many things happening. And it had to be, at one point I feel like they said it had to be a multifamily. So that was another thing.
4 units,
I think it was, they didn't say it just had to be four doors. It had to be a multifamily, which is a bit difficult depending on what market, to get compared to just a single family home. So if that takes 4 years and I'm just not getting married, I think that's the part I don't have an issue with you wanting these things. I mean, we all have goals. There's nothing wrong with that. But I guess it's just, who knows how long it's going to take? Then what happens?
Yeah, what I would also say for that one is that you have to have compromise too. So if we are both shooting for this goal and it's like, well, this goal is taking longer than expected. Okay, I still know you're going for the goal. Like, let's not delay this goes back to what I was just saying, where you're too busy trying to create a living versus living your life.
Yeah.
So we're spending so much time with these goals that we're trying to create a living versus living our lives where we could be married, right? We could be one unit and
enjoying it.
And then also, I guarantee you, if you guys are really about that life,
and you get together,
and you get married,
you probably gonna get it.
You
quicker.
will be double. You will get there double or triple times as fast. It doesn't just happen because you have to do it and I have to do it. No, I guarantee you, when you get married, you guys combine your income. Ooh, that's another gem right there.
Okay.
You combine your income. You combine your credit scores. Let's say, like, your credit score was better than mine at one point, right? And my credit, I hadn't have a bad credit score. Mine was like 700. Hers is like
8 something. Hers
is like close to 800. Like, you're not getting much better than me. I got 700 plus, right? So, but it's like, all right, we got married, and it's like the questions they would ask was like, well, whose credit do you want to use? Like, oh, her credit is better. Okay. Whose income do you want to use? Okay, we can use your income. Your income's better.
Yeah.
So we're able to maneuver on getting these properties a lot faster.
Yeah, because,
So when I was even leaving my 9-to-5 job, and I told the guy, like, yeah, I'm about to leave my job. We was buying our primary residence. I was like, would that be an issue? He was like, no, her credit is perfect, and you got the income. You guys are fine. And you got the money in the bank account, the combined bank account to show that you guys are living together, you guys are a unit, and you have reserves. Versus when you're trying to do it on your own, they're going to pull your credit, they're going to pull my credit. I might not have any money in the bank. You might not have any money in the bank. When we come together, we're going to be able to move faster. And the loan officer's like, yeah, she's good on the credit side, you're good on the income side, you guys will be fine.
Yeah, because then now I think about, all right, you guys get these multi-properties separately, then you get married, then it just stays separately? Are you guys then combining it, or it just stays in John's name and Sarah's name? Like, we never combine it together, which you just touched on, finances coming together, which for us, we have everything together. We do understand that not every marriage operates that way. But that's my follow-up question. So now you get the multifamily separately, John and Sarah. And now when you get married, does it become ours together now? So is the game really just to make sure that you going hard on your side? Like, what if we're going to bring it together in the end anyway, what's the point?
That's true.
Or is it really just to test to make sure that this person is doing or has the drive that they say that they really have? Is that what this is about? Or is it really just, because I don't see the point if we're going to put it together.
So think about it like this, I would also say too, is if, let's say I had a goal of, what would your goal be before we got married? Let's say you had a goal of getting an 800 credit score before we got married. And I had a goal of saving up $10,000. Mm-hmm. And it was very difficult for me to save $10,000, but you hit your 800 credit score.
Okay.
Do you think you look at the person differently because that's the goal they set before they got married and I didn't hit my goal? Or do you kind of view the actions that I'm doing to make a decision?
I think the action, because it depends on the goal. Some goals are going to take longer than others, right? Mm-hmm. And you know how they say actions speak louder than words, right? So depending on what you're doing, example of paying off debt, like, you've had many people say they want to pay off debt. When we were talking about that a lot, and then you're like, they on their 6th trip for the year. Yeah. So, okay, maybe you do want to pay your debt, not that badly, because other things are happening, which is okay. But so the same thing here. Are you really working towards it? I see the houses that you're looking at. I see that things are failing. The interest is too high. I see all the things that you're doing. I'm hearing it because we're connected and we're speaking all the time. And I realize that it's just not happening for you. So let's shift this, or that doesn't change the way that I feel that you're working towards something, because I can see that you're working towards it. Yeah. So that's why, again, the stipulation of these multi-properties just feel like, what does this have to do with anything? And now that I'm talking through it, I'm like, I feel like it has more to do with them proving to each other, or one person, whatever, proving to each other that I actually want this thing. And I'm going to show you that I am a person of my word, like that whatever I say I want, I'm going to work towards it.
And now let's remove the actual goal from the conversation and focus on that part of it. Because I think that's what it really, it's not about the properties.
Yeah.
If I sat there and said, like, does the properties really matter? And we really had a conversation, probably not. But it's exactly what, I think that's where the root of the conversation really is. Are you the type of person that's going to set a goal and actively go out and try to achieve that goal?
Yeah.
Versus just the properties or the 800 credit score to $10,000. No. Are you the type of person that's going to put a goal in place and actively pursue that goal every single day until you get to it?
And that makes sense, because even she had said her previous relationship, the person, her ex was making $80,000, but he didn't want more for himself. Mm-hmm. And so that's why this kind of makes sense. If it is that, then the wanting more for yourself is what's important for them and their relationship and them continuing to grow. So in regards to the question about getting on the same page when it comes to business and building our empire, we feel like sometimes we have a shifted view on it, because all of our businesses are together and all of them have started together. We didn't come into this relationship with any businesses. So trying to get your business together with someone is a bit more difficult than if you built all of it together, right? Mm-hmm. That's one, which they're building it separately. So if they started together, you may be able to avoid all this. I think the other side of it is sometimes everyone doesn't need to work together. right? It does vary, I think, personalities, and this is nothing against anyone, but some marriages, some relationships, we may not need to do business together for whatever reason it may be. I don't know. It could be time, it could be knowledge, it could be anything. We may not need to do things together. And I think sometimes people force things together because it's like we're a unit and we have to, and you may not. I don't know. I'm not saying this is what this situation is, but it's just to give you something else to think about, another way to think about things. That's one.
Yeah, and getting on the same page when it comes to your business and building your empire. It's fantastic that they're thinking about this. It's fantastic that they're doing their own due diligence on their own. But like you said, everyone doesn't have to do everything together. And if you really did want to do this together, you guys would probably get a lot further faster. Mm-hmm. Now, like some of the goals they mentioned was real estate, podcasting, and writing a book. So if I would need to focus on a relationship first, because if the relationship is the most important thing, then the empire will be built after that.
So you're saying before we get to all this stuff that you want to build in a business, what's happening in the relationship first? Like, are we moving forward with the marriage? Are we just courting? Are we just like, what's happening there? Which they also mentioned that they also had kids. So that plays another dynamic into it as well.
So what was the name of the... So imagine this, right? You got two families. You got the husband and the wife, and they got their own families. They got 3 kids, like the Brady Bunch. And you like, I'm gonna bring these. I don't know how many. They had 6, 7 kids on each side. It was like 6 kids total.
No way. I thought it was total of like 6.
It's like 6 kids total, and they brought the family together, and it was always chaos on the show. Every single episode, obviously, every episode had a silver lining at the very end, but it was always chaos because you were trying to bring it together and trying to make these pieces fit. Versus if you guys had your own pieces, and you're like, all right, we're gonna come together. We're going to focus on what we are building together. You don't have to worry about trying to make the square fit into the whole, the circle, whatever it may be. You guys can now focus on what we have together and grow from there. So the relationship needs to be number one.
Okay.
I'm going to say focus on that before we start doing everything else.
Let's say they focused on that. Let's just be hypothetical because we're going to answer and provide some. Say they focus on it. The question is just, how do you get on the same page when it comes to business and building an empire, right? How does it happen? So you should really speak on it because I don't really bring any business ideas to this relationship. I've said that multiple times, and that's the honest truth. I contribute to it. I help to build it, but I don't bring the idea here. So most of the times you are bringing the ideas here. So how do you get me on board, really?
So how do I get you on board when it comes to getting to that goal? So
build to any business, yeah.
So let's start with just what that goal is. The goal has to be in alignment with the family. If you don't have a family, how can you be in alignment? It's not going to be 100%.
Well, they're getting to having a family.
Yeah, but it's going to be it's going to be extremely hard to get in 100% alignment with someone who's you're not with and building with every single day. Now, we're speaking hypotheticals here. So, the wedding was a perfect example. So our goal was to not go into
our
the
wedding
with debt.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, how much is the wedding going to be? And how much do we need to contribute every single week in order so that we don't have to come out of this wedding being in debt? And then we created we sat down, we had the conversation, we created a bank account around it, and we started contributing like $500, every 2 weeks for 1,000 years, whatever that amount of years was. Like that was us getting on the same page before we got married. Was it in alignment with our goals? Yes. Did we have an actionable game plan to get there? Yes. Now, let's say you was like, I don't really care about what the wedding costs. Now we got a different conversation to have.
So you're saying getting on the same page of what the goal is before you start building.
Yeah. Because if his goal was let's go back to the properties. If his goal was 4 properties, her goal was 4 properties.
That's their goal.
That's their goal. So combined, their goal is going to be 8 properties total. Do we actually need 8 properties total in order to get to our family's aligned goal? What does that 8 properties do for me? How much cash flow does it bring in? Like, is the goal to have equity? Is more of a monetary conversation. Is the goal the 8 properties, or is the goal the money from the properties? And how much money is that? Because you may start saying, all right, let's say 8 properties brings in $5,000 a month every single month for the rest of our lives. Okay. The goal is not the 8 properties. The goal is the $5,000. Can we do anything else that generates us $5,000? It doesn't have to be the properties. Let's say they mentioned writing a book. Okay, can we write this book that now pays us $5,000 a month in royalties.
Or podcast.
Can we license this book and the podcast? Okay, now we got a podcast. Can we start getting sponsorship? Can we get affiliate deals? Can we start bringing guests on? So the end goal may not be the real estate. It may be the monetary
thing of it,
part of real estate.
And then I also feel like there may be, I always say we don't got to be on the same page for everything. So I don't feel like, so starting a business, maybe. I think we need to be on the same page. But when it comes to certain logistics of the business and our thoughts on it, we don't always have to be on the same page. But maybe there's some things that you're on the same, that you're doing together and other things you're not. And that's okay. So if you guys want to do the real estate and writing a book and podcasting together, do that together. Then the other things that you guys have separately, let that be separate. And that is okay. That's part of your individuality. That's part of whatever you have going on. And that's totally fine. But also, when it comes to how we get on the same page, I think you need to know the other person as well as to what they need for it. And the prime example is our cleaning business. We've told this story many times that Anthony had brought the idea of the cleaning business to me and I shot it down. Then he came back with more information. When he first brought it, it was just a conversation. It was no type of detail. Second time he brought it around, it was flushed out. This is a plan for the next 4 or 5 weeks. This is what it looks like. This is what I'm going to need from you. All those things were incorporated into the plan. So then it made me say, okay, I can get on board with this because you understood the language that I spoke to be able to understand how we're moving forward. So I think that's another thing that you guys can work on of how are you describing or how are you bringing this idea to the other person? How is it coming up? How would it impact your relationship and each other, whatever this business thing is, and how important is that to you? Because we always say for us, we want the business to operate around us. I don't want to have to be able to do something because of the business, right? Yeah. That's what my 9 to 5 is for. To allow me to not do something because I have a 9 to 5. But the business is, I wanted to run a certain way. I wanted to do a certain thing. So those things I think is important to know when you're bringing it to the person. You know how your person operates and what they want and what they need to get on board. So how are you describing that to them?
That brings up a good point, too, that I thought about. When we first moved to Dallas, what did I want to do?
Yeah.
What did I want to do when we first moved to Dallas? What type of house did I want?
Single family? A 1 floor? What did you want?
When we first moved to Dallas, what was I trying to get?
I don't really remember. That was 7 years ago. What type of house you were trying to get? You were trying to get a house? No.
Yes, I was.
Over an apartment?
Remember when we was looking at properties?
Okay, obviously not. Tell me what it is.
we were looking at multifamilies.
Oh, okay, yeah. And you did.
Yes, we were looking at multifamilies. So very similar to go to you guys. We got married, moved. Everyone's like, "Oh, move down to Texas. You could buy a property. It's cheaper." So we started looking at multifamily properties, 2 duplexes, and we looked at maybe a triplex or whatever. And Janoka said, okay, let's go and do it. And I gave the reason why I wanted to do it. So getting on the same page was important. So I said, we can buy this property, have a tenant in place. Now we can start shortcutting our way to owning real estate by having this tenant in place. And the tenant hopefully pays off some of the mortgage. So we started viewing properties. That was the first thing I'd said. I said, I want to do this because here's what our family can do. Now we can potentially live rent free. You know why I want to do that?
Live rent free. It's like 2 + 2 = what, Johnny?
So I wanted to do that because everybody on social media was saying that.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's like, oh, you should get a multifamily. You should do this, that, and the third. You left New York. You can go do this. So I said, okay, I'm going to go do that. So I started looking into it. And we started viewing properties. We were viewing properties. We looked at duplexes. And we realized that Texas is not the best market for duplexes where we wanted to live.
Where we wanted to. Let's not say Texas. You're going to be, oh, yes, Texas again. Oh, your fingers go crazy.
Finger warriors. So Dallas wasn't the best place for us to find a multifamily property where we wanted to live. So that was very important to us.
Keywords.
Remember, our goal, we just left the projects of New York City. So we didn't want to be in the projects again in Dallas, Texas. And that was one of our, we wanted to have we wanted to live a different way. Right, we already grew up around violence. We was used to that. We didn't want to come to now. We just talked about violence again in the beginning of the episode.
Different type of violence,
but we didn't want to be surrounded by this every single day. Right, so we didn't want to live in certain areas. So the areas we wanted to live in, we looked at duplexes, but it was absolutely almost impossible.
Fully gentrify yet. They didn't change yet.
So it was almost impossible for us to find an area that we want to live in, have the level of safety and comfort we want to live in, and get to those financial goals. Somebody showed us a triplex in an area that was absolutely booming. The triplex is going for like 500,000. It's probably north of $1 million, whatever, or close to 800,000 at this point. But the area it was in was absolutely impoverished. We would have had the best property on the worst block. Coming home from work every day, and we said that we didn't want to. We just grew up in that. We didn't want to be on that same flow. So it didn't work for my family. We had to be in alignment. The goal was to get the duplex or triplex, but the other goal was for us to live in an area that resembled where we want to be at in our lives today. And we just realized that it didn't make sense for us. But now we have multiple properties, not even including our primary residence. But if I would have stayed focused on that same goal for so long, I probably would have put our family in a situation that we didn't want to be in, and it probably would have took us longer to get to our goals. So instead of us focusing on that property side of things, we focus on the income. We started the business. The business made more than the damn properties. It made way more than the properties.
Listen, we have 3 properties, and let's talk about the properties. Actually, let's talk about.
I don't want to talk about the properties.
No, not in detail. I just want to touch on this. It's touching on this.
Okay.
Because I think, like you said, the root of the conversation of the properties is probably income. I'm thinking the root is to show, are you about your word? But whatever. And I want to say that originally going in, properties was not my thing because of that reason of properties can be headaches, blah, blah, blah. Income isn't always flowing. So that's why I just kind of wanted to mention it here, that because properties is what they're thinking about, and the equity and stuff, which I know is a long game. I understand, is a long game, but just think about that as well. There's other ways to make money and accomplish the goals that you guys want or have, the podcasting, writing a book, and other things, than just property. So I ask that you guys have a conversation to kind of just figure out what does the properties mean to us, because then I think that helps to shift the conversation with you guys.
How's it going? What does the properties mean to us?
What is the real meaning behind it?
And they will probably make more from the podcast and writing a book than those.
That's what I'm saying. But you know,
but I want to make sure we are tangible with the examples too. So knowing what the larger goal is for the family, that's going to be super
important. Your person, how are you bringing it to them so that they can get on the same page as well? I thought you was going to bring up the example of us moving down here as getting on the same page. Another way, an example.
That's another one. So when we went to move to Dallas, Texas, and this is very applicable to this situation. So I got a job offer from my previous 9-to-5.
We were engaged.
We were engaged. So we were already engaged at this point. And I got a job offer to move down to Dallas, Texas, right? 7 years ago. Life has been amazing. I brought the idea to my wife the first time. I said, hey, I got an idea. My job just gave me an offer to move down to Dallas, Texas. No, actually, there was no numbers on the table. It was just an idea, it was a thought. And I was like, what do you think about it? She said, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So I'm beating my chest. I'm like, this is a great idea. We need to do this, blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely
and
not.
It wasn't, remember what we just said about the business? It was like, you have to plant the seed, and it has to make sense for where you guys want to go as a unit, right? So the goal wasn't Texas. It wasn't to move to Texas. It absolutely wasn't move to Dallas.
Increase in pay.
So it was everything else that came with that move. So once I came back, I was like, okay, let's go visit. So we visited to see what it even looked like, because you had an idea. We both had an idea of Texas.
You from New York. You say it all the time.
We from New York. We said that's not a reason for everything. We from New York.
But that mindset is kind of limited. Like, you're exposed to so much culture, but limiting in that you think of cows and horses on the road in Texas. I lie to you not, which I've seen. But it's more Fort Worth. You know what I mean? It's not the day to day. I can't look out my window and see that. I'm seeing the squirrels like everybody else.
So I'm giving you guys an example of us being on the same page as a couple. So I brought the idea first, absolutely didn't flesh it out. She's like, absolutely not, we're not moving. Second time I was like, let's go visit. Okay, now the idea is just out there. Let's just go take a weekend. We visited. Okay, it's not that bad. The other conversation came around compensation. I said, okay, how much would it need? How much would we need to make it in order to feel comfortable? And that was like at least 6 figures. Okay, we got that. But that wasn't even the most important part. It was the life that it was going to be able to bring us when we moved.
Yeah.
So we started having a conversation about what does our life look like living in Dallas, Texas?
Yeah,
what does our life look like having these four units, right? Is the goal the 4 units, or is the goal the lifestyle is going to bring us? So the Texas wasn't the goal. It was what it was going to be able to bring us. So we started talking about, all right, we could get a bigger apartment.
Oh, we can have open concept kitchen.
Open concept kitchen. You mentioned you want to have a dog. We can't have dogs in New York City. Like most of the time. You can, but it's going to be really hard. She wanted to get a dog. And I was like, okay, we got a dog. We got an open concept kitchen. We got an apartment with a balcony. We got no noise. Crime is lessened. We got a pool. We started visiting complexes, right? So the original goal was to move to Texas. But the larger goal was to provide for our family in a way that we didn't see until we started having that vision conversation. What is the vision of the actual?
Oh, you are so on point with that, because now I think back to paying off debt. Just the
oh my God, I'm in my bag, y'all.
All these examples we got. You asked for examples of how we get on the same page, and these are all real life examples that we've experienced with getting on the same page. Paying off debt. I shut it down too. The conversation was why we got to pay off debt. We're paying our bills on time. We will pay off our debt like
we paid
the
off
rest of the world.
$114,000 in 23 months.
We'll pay it off like the rest of the world in 5 years, 10 years, whatever that looks like. Who knows? We'll just pay it off. Once again, Anthony had brought it. I shut it down. I'm like, no need. He's like, I think we could do it. Just listen to this podcast, hear these stories. I think we could do it. I'm like, listen, I don't see a need of us doing this. He's like, listen, if we could do this, then imagine all that money that we're putting towards debt, we could be spending it on what you want to do, travel and do other things. Now you're speaking my language. Maybe I need to listen more to hear, what you got to say, or what that would mean for us, right? Because at first it's like, it feels like, well, we're doing something that you want to do. It's not what I want to do, right? So it feels that way. Now it feels like, okay, this is impacting us, so let's have a further conversation on that. And that kind of took off. Then it became our thing, and it took off in that way. But a lot of our life, now that I think about it, has been that compromise and getting on the same page, but figuring out how to get on the same page by making it work for each other, and also just the communication between each other, and also knowing your partner and knowing what they need maybe to feel comfortable to get on that page. That's the other thing. You can't just be telling me, well, we're going to move and it is what it is, right? But no, we're going to move and I still will be able to fly back and forth to come for the wedding stuff. You'll be able to stay here until it's time to move down. Then we'll have your mother and grandmother visit within a month. Like, that's getting on the same page, but laying it out, right? Laying out a plan. So that would be another thing that I would say when it comes to getting on the same page.
Yeah, and one of those things about that debt freedom conversation was that, like, that travel part was huge for you. I said, when we pay off this debt, we will be able to travel whenever you want, wherever you want, and I won't ask any questions. And it's been 3 years now, and I think I rarely ask questions at this point.
This is just 3, yeah.
Maybe 3 years. Time flies.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, you can. And our first trip was Maldives and Dubai. Yeah, that was one of your dream places. We went there, done.
Did it?
Game done. We went there. We was there for like 2 weeks. And we ran our cleaning business from Maldives and Dubai, and the cleaning business helped pay for it. And if you guys want to know how to start a 7-figure cleaning business without cleaning any houses, tap into Cleaning Business University. Link will be somewhere in the show notes. But it goes back to, and another thing they mentioned was, how can we both accomplish our goals and dreams at the same time? But I think you guys can go a lot further and faster if you guys do it together.
But you can accomplish independently, because that's a conversation that we have of, what is my goals and what can I do outside of just a family unit? Because we understand that everything doesn't have to be the family unit.
They're talking about the same exact goal. It's like, oh, I want to start a podcast. You want to start a podcast. It's like,
you're
okay,
like, just do that
start
together.
the podcast together.
Yeah.
We just talked to a couple, and literally we was like, let's just remove all excuses. What is the hardest part about doing this? And we broke it down, and it was really just, again, what is the vision for the family? How do you communicate? The husband was actually more of the constraint than the wife was, and he just was thinking about the technicals. And she didn't realize that he was thinking about the technical side of it.
Yeah.
Once he broke down the technical side, and I was like, let's just break this down and get him what he needs, they were able to go and record the episode that same day. So I think that's one of the most important things that you mentioned, is understanding the person that you're communicating with and what their style of understanding is.
Right. And I guess the last thing I would say is, those times that I say to you, well, we don't need to be on the same page. How do you combat that? Because not being on the same page, which you always say is it's different with not being on the same page when we're talking about what would you do in this situation versus starting a business, right? Because your thing is, I don't ever want to start a business that you said don't do or you don't want to do, and then it fails and it's kind of like told you so. Now all our money's down the drain.
Yep.
Right? That's your thought. But not everybody's like that. Understandable. Some people like, I'm gonna do it regardless. But how do you combat when I say, because I say it a lot, like we don't gotta be on the same page. How do you respond back to that generally?
Usually when you say we don't gotta be on the same page, that's just a smoke screen. We always gotta be on the same page. That's that.
That's not a smoke screen. That's you just saying that we have to be on
That's you throwing up a smoke screen and I come back later.
That's us disagreeing, because I would be like, we can agree to disagree. You're like, no, but we need to develop this. And I think it's probably like, let's shut this conversation down.
Yeah.
We can come back and talk about it another time and then we get on the same page.
Again, it just goes back to being in alignment with the larger family vision. And sometimes what I say is not in alignment. It would just be like an idea and it's like, yeah, it's really not conducive to where we are and what we want to go.
What we want to do. Yeah.
Right? So it's like, all right, you had this idea to go do something, go to the moon, and it's like, well, we don't gotta be on the same page about that. Go to the moon if you really want to. It's like, what's the purpose of you going to the moon? Like, how is that helping our family advance forward?
What time you going? How much is it? Like, when you break everything down, and you're like, oh yeah, I really don't
want to go to the moon. So I think that's I mentioned earlier, is about what is the bigger vision for both of us. You know, even if we're going in parallel lines, and we aren't on the same track, but we're going in the same direction, you can still be in alignment with where you guys want to go. So if this end goal is eventually marriage, what does it look like for the engagement side? What do you need in order to be engaged? So you need to have two people who are in alignment. There probably should be some version of love in there, and it probably should be some family. None of that to me says business. Yes, I agree. Marriage is a business. We had an episode about this as well. Marriage is a hell of a business because that is one of the biggest financial mistakes that you can make in life, or one of the biggest financial gains that you could have in life.
Fair.
Being married. So yes, it is a business. I agree. I don't disagree with that part at all. And it needs to be, more people need to think about this as a business decision.
And not just like,
having kids. Yeah. They don't think about kids as a business decision either, but that's the biggest financial mistake you can make with a partner as well. But I still like the energy. I still like the goals.
Absolutely.
I still like the alignment. I just don't like what the goal is. And then also, like you mentioned earlier, what is the actual, you said, what's the meaning of the goal?
What's the meaning of the goal? That's my question. What's the meaning of the goal? Maybe you guys can answer that. Maybe they can answer on our podcast. We don't know. But that's the question that I have. What is the real meaning of the goal? And I think that helps to shift everything, basically. So that's it on our part. But I did want to remind you guys that we are hitting our 100th episode next week. So 100. Once again, I don't know if am I getting the balloons? We'll see. 100th episode this week. And next week. And we're just trying to flesh out the ideas of how we can get our community involved and engaged in this 100th episode. It's been 2 years of us talking through your ears every single week, multiple times a week, because we drop an episode on Fridays too, if you didn't know, multiple times a week. And we just want to thank you. And we're excited to see where this thing continues to go and grow. Okay? Go and grow.
Yes. And again, we spend so much time trying to make a living that you don't make a life. That's it, y'all. Appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you next week. And we are out.
Take care.
Peace.